So my max deadlift is 650 pounds at a body weight of 195. Now last week, on October 6, 2020, I deadlifted with Mark Bell, live streaming on his YouTube channel, where I failed a tiny PR attempt of 655 pounds. Just a 5-pound PR, very small. And I failed it. I just did not have it in me on that day. And normally I'd be upset about this, but I have to tell you, I can't remember the last time I failed the deadlift. The better you get at lifting, the better you get at programming and selecting your weights, and the less you fail. You don't want to be failing lifts as a good lifter. So I'm proud to say I haven't really. So failing for the first time was actually a blessing in disguise, because when I look back at the footage, there's nothing I did wrong. There's nothing that I'm kicking myself for. Like I didn't misgroove or set up incorrectly. There's nothing in my technique that's inherently wrong. I just simply did not have that much weight in me. I need to get stronger. Period. It was kind of the best thing in the world for me because I didn't get lazy with my training, but because I was progressing consistently, I maybe wasn't checking all the boxes in areas that I could have been, like with the fine tuning of weak point training, like training the glutes. So now I'm hungry to do a little bit more. So now that we're back home, we're restarting training, and I'm restarting my lean strength program, which is an 8-week program, but I'm also starting my deadlift peaking program, which is a 10-week program. And that program's dope because it's designed for just your deadlifts, and it's designed to be inserted into whatever program you're already running. So the first 3 weeks or so, you're deadlifting twice a week. After week 3, you're only deadlifting once a week. So it becomes very easy to insert into your program. In the lean strength program, Wednesday is your deadlift day. You only get 1 a week. So that's gonna be our first deadlift day of deficits. So this is deadlift day number 1 out of 2 this week, starting with deficit pulls. Deficits are awesome because they increase your range of motion, which is gonna make the lift harder overall. A lot of people, when they have lockout issues, go right to block pulls. Block pulls have their place, but I find a lot of people are better suited if they just work on getting a tighter, stronger position from the ground. So that's what's worked for me really well. But the other big reason I really love these is that they really help teach you to engage your lower body and to drive those hips. If you're someone who stands too close to the bar, or you just have a bad habit of sitting on your heels too much and pulling the weight into you too much, and you're getting stuck at the knees and your back starts rounding, these are a really good way to help you learn to engage those legs. So here's the trickiest part to remember with deficits. When you go to set up your deadlift, and I have videos on how to find your setup, right? Roughly cutting your feet in half, standing maybe an inch and a half away from the bar depending on your build, right? So this is my normal setup. This is where I'd stand for a normal deadlift off the ground. And because the bar is high, my shins can only go forward like an inch or so before they hit. So my knees can only bend this much. However, if I stay in the same exact position but I go up 3 inches higher, now my shins can come so much more forward before they finally touch the bar. My knees, instead of being here, can now come way over here, way further in front of the bar, just because the bar's lower, so my shins have more room to go forward. Now this is where it's gonna start throwing you off. You have to compensate for this. So the biggest mistake most people make is because their knees come forward, they try to squat their hips really, really low and sit into it like this. And this is a mistake. When you try doing this, you're gonna find that your hips still shoot up on you and then you lift the bar up. No good at all. That's turning into a 2-part motion. You're gonna get yourself hurt that way. So this one forces you to really learn how to stay tight. You're gonna have to keep your stomach super braced, your core super braced, in order to keep everything nice and tight now, because your hips are in a position where they're gonna wanna shoot up much easier on deficits now. So you have to stay super tight, and you have to really engage those hips and drive from the very start to stop them from shooting up. So when you get in this position, push those knees forward till they hit the bar. It's gonna pull your hips more over the bar, and then from there, bend down. Don't squat down. I'm not squatting, I'm just bending down. So see how high my hips still are? I didn't squat into it like this to reach the bar. I let my shins touch. They came way more forward than usual. And then keep my hips where they are. I reached down. So my hips are still somewhat high. And that's how you want to deadlift. It's a hip hinge, not a squat. And then from there, like I said, super, super tight bracing here. And again, your hips are gonna be dying to shoot up and go loose on you like this. So you have to focus on keeping that weight on the center of your foot. If you sit too far back in your heels, same thing, hips are gonna shoot, you're gonna be pulling it backwards, no good. So you have to keep the weight in the center of your feet, almost like you're gonna leap forward over the bar, and you have to get the stomach tight and drive those hips forward from the very start. Right now, my hips are already going forward. And this is a great way to help you get off your heels and teach you how to really engage your lower body from the start of the rep and keep a really tight core. I'm using a 3.5-inch block to account for the deadlift bar slack you can pull out. But if you're using a stiff bar, you can get away with a 2.5-inch block, no more than 3. Even if you're using a deadlift bar, if you're brand new to these, I wouldn't even start off with a 3-inch yet. I would start with 2, 2.5, and go from there. You can even begin with simply using a fat 45-pound plate just to get used to them. Now, on my deadlift only days, I don't hit any deadlift accessories or lower body accessories at all. I actually smash back on these days. Now, building a big, strong back is actually really supportive of your strength training. A bigger, stronger back equals an improved deadlift, bench, and squat, but I also do it just because I love power building. I want to look like I lift and lift strong, right? So we're smashing back today, and I actually hit my first lower body deadlift accessories on leg day, on squat day, which was yesterday. So let's rewind it and go backwards one day. So the glute ham raise is probably one of the best accessories for building up that hip strength, that lockout strength, your posterior chain, your glutes and your hamstrings without taxing your body. You're not using heavy weight on this, so you can throw this in and it's challenging. It'll fatigue you, it'll exhaust you, but it's not gonna like tax your CNS any further like adding extra deadlifts or stiff leg deadlifts or RDLs could if you do them too heavy. So with this, there's a couple of ways to do this. Depending on what your aim is, I like turning this into a 2-part movement to hit both the hamstrings and the glutes. So the first part is standing straight up, kneeling, pushing your hips forward, okay? Hips should not be bent like this. Hips should be forward. So hump the pelvis forward. Hips should be lined up with your sternum and with your chest. Booty is flexed. You're clenching the booty right now like you're trying to stop someone from inserting a pencil up there if you're freaky like that, right? Keeping yourself locked out like a deadlift lockout, tight like this. You then use your hamstrings to lower yourself down. My torso and hips are staying straight, 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 straight. I'm not letting this hip bend at all. Once you get to the full locked out position, and you're gonna feel that in your hamstrings right there, then hinge at the hips. You don't wanna be bending your back or spine. You wanna hinge at the hips like a deadlift. Hinge at the hips, butt's poking out, lower back is nice and straight, torso is nice and straight. And then from here, you're going to flex the glutes and you're gonna lock out a deadlift. Boom, that's using your glutes. That's hip extension. So right now you're firing your glutes away, boom, locking out a deadlift. That's your glutes right there. And then you're gonna use your hamstrings to lift yourself back upright. Again, keeping those hips forward, nice and rigid. And that's gonna be super hard on the hamstrings. Now, if this is too hard for you, you can do a couple of things. You can start from here and just lock the glutes out. Squeezing the glutes to lock yourself out. Squeeze the glutes. That right there is a good way to work your glutes. If curling your legs up is too hard with an upright body, if you hinge at the hips, again, not the spine, bending at the hips, and keep your body bent, it makes it a little bit easier for you to do. It takes some of the weight off, so you can do them just like this with a bent hips, bent torso. And that will still work your hamstrings, and it's a little bit easier than keeping your body totally upright. And you can just do this until you get stronger at it and can eventually keep your body upright. Next up in the repertoire, reverse hyperextensions. Yes, this thing is more than just a table to put your bag at the gym. Admittedly, that's how I used it for years and years, but now I'm finally mature enough to take advantage of it. This thing's incredible. This was invented by Louis Simmons originally when he had a back injury and he couldn't do normal hyperextensions. So normal hyperextensions are this machine you see over here, where you basically just do the motion of a deadlift. Sort of like the glute ham raise, but it's a 1-point motion, just hip hinging like a deadlift. When Louis had a back injury, he couldn't do that. It was too much strain on his back. So what he did is he laid down flat on here and he did it opposite. So instead of having your legs pinned in place and then hinging your torso up and down, you instead have your torso pinned in place on this table here, and you lift your legs up and down, and you're using just your glutes to lock those legs back. And this is great for, again, teaching you to really engage those glutes and brace hard at the same time, because it's hard to hold this weight up at the very top and squeeze. So you have to brace really hard, taking big air and punch that stomach into this table to get that pressure to help lift your hips up at the same time as flexing those glutes to keep those heels up behind you really high. So that combination of bracing and glute activation, again, ties in tremendously to locking out a deadlift and even a squat. Is anybody else superstitious like me? I have to wear these white sneakers every time I deadlift. It's the stupidest thing in the world. I have black sneakers for when I squat and bench, and then I have to wear these white ones on deadlift day for no real reason at all. I think I just had like a great deadlift workout once while I wore them and it just stuck. It's so stupid. But speaking of apparel. If you guys like this outfit, about to hit the gym now. This is our second deadlift day of the week, and this is all alpha clothing. So these joggers are a size medium for the fitted look. I can wear a size large too, but for fitted, which I like, I wear a medium. And then the shirt is a size large. And if you guys want to support me, you can use the code NWB18 and it gets you 20% off all this clothing. And it's really fresh clothing. I've been with Alpha for like half a decade now. But that supports me and it saves you money, so I appreciate it. Link is in the info box below. Let's hit the gym. So I'm inserting my second deadlift day of the week at the very end of the week on day 5, which is my second squat day, my squat variation day, in which I do tempo squats, 3-second negatives for a 5x5. So I make sure to gas myself out on squats first, and then I hit the deadlifts pre-exhausted. And I'm choosing to put this day after my squat variation day, but the beauty of this program is you can mix it around however you want. Just make sure you get at least one day in between your 2 deadlift sessions. But if you want to put your deadlift day or deadlift workout after upper body, that's fine. But anyway, today's only 69%. This is actually rounded down to like 68%. Because 69 for me would have been 448.5 or something like that. So in a situation where you're right in the middle of 2 numbers and you don't have micro plates, always round down. So I rounded down to 445. And the goal today is just speed, really. Just keeping the muscles engaged and warm. And when I say speed, you want to always focus on engagement first. Engagement is first. So if you need to focus on engaging the hips, engaging everything properly, and it makes the rep a little slow, that's okay. Quality over speed. But once you do have the engagement down, getting as explosive as you can with that engagement is a great way just to build up momentum for when you get under some heavy weight. If you start sacrificing form for speed, no good. And it's easy to do by accident. You can start pulling lightweight like this, start rounding your back, and still lock it out pretty fast and not even realize you're messing up. But when you get to heavyweight, it'll quickly check you. So just easy 3x3, super low volume today. Again, just to kind of keep things warm after that deficit day the other day. Wow, are we in a baking class? Because today we're building cake. I don't know how I'm not single. I don't know how I have subscribers still. We really are working on the glutes now though. It's booty time. But this ain't no IG Fitness booty workout. This is locking that deadlift out. So this is actually a trick I learned from my friend Pete Rubish, a deadlift legend. He actually gave me some cues that helped me really break past that 600 mark and into the mid 600s. And one thing he recommended highly that I just never did were these hyper extensions, but with a weight in hand. And then what you can do, which is really common, is hold a weight like this against your chest, like a weight plate. And then you can go all the way down and boom. But what Pete recommended doing was actually mimicking a deadlift with the bar in hands. And now the catch here is, because the bar is in hands, you can't go down as deep, obviously you'll hit the ground. So you really can add more weight and just focus on that top lockout portion to really overload those glutes and that hip extension. And I've never done this before. So I'm using 25s in the bar. And a straight bar is actually great, but I just didn't feel like getting it. You can definitely feel that overloads the glutes if you add a lot of weight onto that. So we'll work on that. And then I'm gonna superset that with no weight and full stretch at the bottom. So just a body weight set with a full stretch all the way to the bottom. Well, that's a wrap for week 1, guys. Rebuilding. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned and be ready for the next one. I'll keep you guys updated as we progress. We have only, 10 or 11 weeks until the year ends, so we gotta grind.